with it.
All right. It says we're live, but we're gonna give it a second. And yeah, let's now we're live. So, hello everyone. My name is Joaquin Milata, and this is the AI Digest podcast. With us is Yari Arroyo, and today we're going to be talking about the importance of UX architecture in AI. Um, I really appreciate having the opportunity to have Yadi on the show because she represents a very rare breed of craft people, craft folk. She has a MBA. She has a qualitative background. She's both parts of the coin. So she's had to articulate, how do we justify ROI in these business cases, as well as how do we take these insights and observations into what we found and what we've learned and use that to inform the development of useful features and products that serve your customers, your clients, and the people that you want to add value to. So, with that, maybe Yadi, you can tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and kind of anything else that's top of mind.
Oh, thank you, Joaquin. Yeah, so for work, I work in a financial institution, so that's one role, and it's different from my personal life role, which is like managing my family's healthcare, right? So you kind of have to see those two coins, right? Like where I come from a medically complex family, right? People have different issues. Son is special needs, so there's a lot of stuff we have to manage, and in order to be able to do it, you almost have to be able to like scale yourself up, right? From an ops perspective, right? So you kind of describe myself from those two angles, right? So at work, a lot of my work is less about traditional UX design, right? Like, yes, I can do UI badly. Yes, I can do UX amazingly. Yes, I could do like research and writing and all this other traditional like generalist UX stuff. And I do actually do that, right? But the biggest time consumer and the biggest time suck, and I would even say like the stuff that I hate but love is actually like alignment and framework and governance, right? Like, and I would say it's almost like also a BA role because it's almost like how do you translate certain experiences that we have to have into technical realities, right? A dev can do that to some extent, but they're not going to have the advocacy for the user. They're just not. They're going to be like, I'm just going to do it like the best and operationally like the most efficient way, which is fine, right? Like that's great, whatever, right? You may have some devs that may think about UX and be like, how can I do this better? Those are amazing. Those are the best devs to work with because they'll bring ideas to be like, well, your idea actually is more friction. Can we do this instead? And I'm like, oh my God, right? Like they care about the user experience, right? My job is kind of saying, like, okay, because I understand the user experience from like a UX practitioner standpoint, right? And I also know the technology limitations. I'm actually a bridge that can help like bridge any technical writing or any technical documentation gaps that can actually get us there. Right. So, like UX designers, a lot of times, like their job isn't to do data science, their job isn't to do alignment, their job isn't to talk to lawyers. My job is, right? Like, and just in general, ever since I worked in finance, like I have to talk to people that are the ones that make the decisions that say yay or nay to my design. And a lot of times designers are gate kept where they're not brought into that table. They're not like, you're not supposed to be here type of mentality. Whereas some of the best organizations I've been at, like they've been like, okay, you're good in terms of like designing and you're good at explaining why. Now we need your help with the lawyers. Right. And that's how it started at a certain company where my job wasn't to show up with the lawyers, but eventually they brought me in and they saw, oh, we can actually get approvals the first time around instead of having all these back and forths, like trying to explain stuff. So I would say my job right now is like a Rosetta Stone, right? Like it's like I have to translate certain things in certain ways. And because I understand the urgency and I actually care, I want to do a good job. Versus other people, like let's just say if you're a standard BA or you're a standard project manager, like you don't know what good looks like if you haven't been a UX practitioner, right? Like you know, you can kind of like as a user, like as a normal human, know if something sucks, right? Like everybody has that like threshold, but when it comes to actually like if you live the world of a UX designer or service designer or human factors engineer, you see the world from a whole different angle and you see the priorities of having to fix certain issues as like higher stakes than someone that's like, well, we could wait for next time or we could put it in the backlog or we don't have to fix that because they're all like operators but in the way of just wanting to get stuff out there. not like wanting to get quality stuff out there. So that's pretty dope.
Productivity for productivity's sake, but not for adding value or bringing you closer to fulfilling a mission.
There you go. So my job is quality assurance, right? Like from a human standpoint, human design standpoint.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying business analyst and I appreciate you saying quality assurance because this is something that we wanted to address and I want to address it up front. People want to invent new ideas and labels and things for things that already exist, for things that matter, that are pretty fundamental, but it doesn't give them the chance to differentiate themselves or sell the new novel idea, you know? Like
Yeah.
designers, graphic designers, and people before that, artists, like they had codified principles and practices and theory and science to fulfill a functional thing. And then people started saying, oh, but this is different because it's applied to a different thing. Now it's a new label, and now you need a job to have this label to show that you can do this in your company. But what are words, man? What are words? Words don't really mean anything unless you assign value to them.
I love that you said that because there's like an attack on what some of my friends call pure UX, right? They're like, and what I mean by that is like UX is never going to go away. Like UX is in itself, like those are like standard principles that are like going to live, they're going to outlive us, right? Like the principles and frameworks don't die, right? But the teachers of those frameworks can. And those ideas can die. And like what I'm seeing is that a lot of people are kind of ignoring that for like one like dimensional aspects of our job. Like now it's being whittled down to you have to be a good visual designer, a good interaction designer, and a good like front end designer to even be considered. Like that is UX, right? When in reality it's like, well, I mean that's one aspect of UX, but like that shitty UX, if that's all you focus on, or crappy. Let me like change it a little bit. It is inefficient UX, right? It is good looking UX, but like if you don't have the research behind it, if you don't have the AI architecture, if you don't have the information architecture, right? There's so many little things that go into a good experience, whether it's intentional or not, right? You have so
Yeah,
many things.
there are people that want to be at a tactical level before they even have an understanding of the bigger picture. They want to build the jigsaw puzzle before looking at what it is the heck that they're going to be building together and with a team. Oh, that's the those are the corner pieces. That's the center. But classics are important, right? That's the
Hmm.
base message here. Um, in the spirit of making this information, this conversation accessible, how about we talk about what is an experience?
Yeah. Well, an experience or a service, right? It's like just literally the end to end like thing that happens when you're interacting with either a company, feature, or service, right? So in a bank, an experience would be maybe going to the branch, right? Like if you're going to the branch, your experience of like locating a branch, your experience of like waiting in line, your experience of like getting your, either buying a service or getting a service installed if you're a first time person, I mean, this is the thing, use cases impact everything, right? Just going to the branch is like one use case, but then like for what? You have all these sub use cases, like is it to deposit money? Is it because you have a problem? Do you have fraud? And then from there are other paths, so it's like it splinters, right? And that's what an experience is. An experience is, the end-to-end activity that happens when someone interacts with your brand, feature, or product, right? And we had kind of touched upon the intended and unintended experiences, right? And with AI, what we're introducing is more unintended experiences because it's called probabilistic design, right? Whereas before we had deterministic, and you could really tell, like, okay, the A equals B equals C equal D or whatever, right? But now it's like you don't know. You don't know what order it's going to come in. You don't know the context. It's very flexible. LLMs do a lot of the work. So like how does human in the loop work in it? So that's where like AI is slightly different, where we kind of have to like shift our frame to consider probabilistic like design in how we think. And a lot of times that means a lot more architectural work up front because you have to see all the possibilities and then whittle them down to templates, right? And like find the commonalities across use cases and then
Bus-
kind of design for that.
Business analysis. You have to understand the
Mm-hmm.
requirements you're trying to fulfill in the use case, and how do you optimize between the resources, the people, the time, the money that you have on hand to fulfill that, to make money for the business, because that's the
That
ultimate.
too. That too. And I would say, like, in my company, I don't do that. Like, we have the product owners that do that, but I have to know about it so that, like, if they suggest something that won't align, I can explain why, right? A lot of my job is explaining why.
And then you can negotiate with each other without having it be a conflict of interest, right?
Mhm. Exactly.
So, in the space of user experience, how have you seen it changing in the last 3, 5 years?
Well, okay, so I was a UX architect way back in the glory days of UX, right? I was fortunate enough that I've been doing UX since 2006, right? So I got to see like how it started and well not how it started. It started a long time ago, but I got to experience when it started blooming and people actually knew about it and were hiring about it and it was a rare thing. Right? Nowadays it's standard to have a UX department. Like it's not a no-brainer, right? The problem with that is that eventually got commoditized, right? Like a lot of boot camps started popping up. They started like, to some extent not lying, but then eventually lying when they would say like, "Oh, it's an easy career you can get into without a college degree. Just take our boot camp, earn six figures, you're good." So that was true, like let's say in 2012, right? That's when the explosion started where anybody could just get in. Like if you were a graphic designer, a creative director, like people that had like peripheral skills that could be used in UX, but without the UX rigor, right? Not knowing like UX research or like all the UX architecture stuff that would go along with being a good visual designer, right? Because you can design good, that's a graphic designer, but like to actually build products, you have to know the human psychology. So it's almost like you have one dimension of it, but not all of it. So like people kind of were tricked into this like, look at this fun, easy career. And you get enough people like that. And those people get into position of power. Or even worse, like you get people that because they're ambitious and want to take the cheap way, they kind of say, like, okay, I'm gonna go to this boot camp. I'm gonna like get promoted based on like UX theater and fake artifacts. And then because I don't know what good UX looks like, I don't know who to hire. So I'm going to hire sycophants, right? And a lot of these people, like they may be considered good by people that don't know UX because they don't measure. They're not metrics people.
Right. How does somebody that's never done the thing judge somebody that does the thing well?
And they can't, right? But this is the thing. It's all about hype, right? And we talked about hype offline. Like what does hype look like? A lot of times it's like anyone who benefits from the hype will
Lean
support each
into
other,
it. Yeah.
right? So you have a group of people that are self-interested and like it's into their best interest to hype it up that like, oh, for UX you don't really need UX architecture, you don't need UX research, that's too long, that's too like precious, we don't need that, let's just like A/B test, right? And the people I'm talking about are startups, right? They're also the same people that fail like 95% of the time, right? So like I would not listen to someone who fails 95% of the time for their advice on how to do product design, right? Because a lot of times they don't have product market fit. And guess what? UX helps with that, right? Because of research.
And one of the benefits of having somebody that is truly focused on the user experience, even though it feels a little bit like it's antagonizing the direction of the organization at large, they are the eyes and ears that are listening and scanning for danger and potential areas of, trip falls or pit holes. If we keep doing it this way, we're going to churn all the people that are using our product. Or we keep doing it this way, we're going to reach legal financial troubles.
Yes.
It's not like, hey, we're waving the flag, like you're doing it wrong. It's like, here's a constructive area of improvement. If we don't remedy this in the roadmap, instead of doing those things that make us sell more, but this is a core part of the experience, we're going to get in trouble.
Well, and it's funny that you say that because the UX people, like I'm going to call the UX theater people, they don't really care about metrics. They're about vanity metrics, like what makes me look good so I can get that promotion. These are the people we're talking about, right? Not everybody's like this. I would say, like, I would hope the majority isn't, right? Certain fields attract only this. And I'll give you a clue. It starts with FAANG. Yes, right. Like there's certain fields that attract a certain type of ambitious, cutthroat, like Dunning Kruger arrogant type of I'm not curious to find out what the client actually or the customer actually wants or thinks. They're like, I have taste. I'm the tastemaker. I will tell them what to like. That's an arrogance that I can't explain. I don't want to. I don't want to dig into it. But I do know that those people probably don't do well in banking or healthcare or GovTech because if you have an intent based design, which is like what conversational AI is, right? Like that's how like you know, ChatGPT and other interfaces got built, right? Intent is basically saying, I have an intent to do X, Y, and Z, right? And however you get it done, whether it's conversationally or click on stuff, that's how you go into it, right? Like people that don't know how to design for that create really bad probabilistic designs because all their use cases are the nice, like happy paths, right? They don't design for the bad paths. And by the way, my life is in the bad paths. My life lives in the repair paths, in the what could go wrongs, and the whataboutism of like, well, what about this and what about that and what about this use case? So yeah, UX architecture helps me give my clients and my friends who I'm designing with the frameworks to understand all the possibilities, right? Like my flow charts are all about if and then. If this happens, then what? If this happens, and then what? And then you go down to like adding different gates. Like, all right, what about sentiment? What about this? What if they're angry? Right? Like an example would be I have a flow chart, and in the flow chart I start with is this person going to the branch or the telephone or the chatbot or the website, right? Or the mobile, right? So you have like different inputs or outputs, whatever. And then let's say they go to the chatbot, right? Like that's the path. All right. Then we go down and focus on the chatbot flows, and the chatbot could be like, well, they want to like, stop a payment, right? Fine, that's one path. But if they're angry, I give them a human. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's where sentiment's important because it's like there's so many different concepts that work together. And if you know how to unite them, then you can actually do an end to end experience that's like thoughtful and, as frictionless as it can be. But sometimes you do want to introduce friction, like if you're making a payment. You may
Right.
want to introduce a road, just to like make sure. Are you sure that this is what it is? So
There's
it's
legal and there's like responsible checkpoints that must be enforced irrespective of the state of the actor that is engaging with the product.
exactly,
You don't want them to
exactly.
accidentally send $10,000 because they meant to type $1,000 and they added an extra zero because they were angry.
Well, oh my God, there you go. That's a perfect example. How does like sentiment or like state of mind affect your actual like execution of things, right? Do you fat finger something? Are you like yelling like agent, agent?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah. And Cantera, she brought up this really good example of conversation design that is solely reliant on having a voice driven IRI doesn't always work because um, people assume that you're in a freaking phone booth isolated from the world and there's not going to be any external sound. There could be a car passing by, the TV can be on, your baby could be crying on your lap, like anything could be happening at any given moment, and any of that noise bleeding into the conversation. And that's very frustrating when you're trying to interface with something because they don't want to give you the customer support
Yep.
that one little sound comes in and then your route has to make you go all the way back to the main menu and restart the whole experience.
She legit has a point because that's why like okay, let's use that as an example, right? What I would do in my little flow chart when I'm thinking about the use case is like, are there headphones plugged in? Right? If there's headphones plugged in, we can tell, right? Then it's a different situation if there isn't, right? And then you have to go down the path of if there isn't headphones in, are they in a private space? Because I do banking. So guess what? From the very beginning, our biggest issue is we assume the person's in public. So we're not going to want to say something that is going to like, I mean, it's sensitive information. It's your banking information. And sometimes it's super embarrassing if you have a low amount, right? Like it's like, I don't want people to know I have $10 in my banking. Like that's like irresponsible. But the thing is like, it is a very private thing. Like healthcare and banking, they're very like sensitive information. Right. So that's why, like, when you first design it as a UX architect, and this is the thing, this is skill sets that have existed for decades, right? To literally think through the use cases and scenarios. And that's
We did,
purposeful design.
we didn't invent anger in 2010. We've been
I know,
getting
right? We're
angry.
like, you anger came with you. No, but it's funny that you mentioned that because I took a trauma informed design class with my friend Gail Swanson. I was like, oh, she's like one of the female UX leaders. obviously Doge impacted that, right? So she like created this course of trauma informed design. And it's very awesome. Like, first of all, I get it. Like, it was very concise, very precise. It was information dense, but in such a clear to understand way. And that is trauma informed design, because you don't know how like people are going to be impacted by trauma, right? Like, if your window of tolerance is so small because your life, like right now in Chicago, we have a lot of ICE people, and it's very terrorizing. So, you know, to know that someone's window may be smaller because of social economic reasons or personal reasons, like, that's all important to know. And that happens at the beginning of the flow, right? Like, you have to have like the psychology of the user, the, sentiment at any high stakes situations, and then also overlap all those filters with intent, right? That's what a good UX architect does.
One thing I learned from you in a previous conversation that we've had is that access to financial services is a human right. And
Yes.
there's neurodivergent, there's cognitive impaired, there's seeing impaired, auditory impaired, all kinds of impairments, or a spectrum of capabilities, physical or otherwise, of the senses, that you still require financial services, whether you're blind, deaf, mute, and you must be able to put in and retrieve money to pay rent and pay utilities and do all these things. And you're saying you're responsible for facilitating all that. So I cannot, I cannot personally fathom how many different paths you have to take into consideration for all those permutations for neurodivergent or people that have complex lives like what you described that you go through on a daily basis.
Well, I love my job because it allows me to think deeply about that, because god, okay, so you would do good at like UX architecture because you're the same way. Like, you think of all these if then statements, like we think like engineers, right? Like, that's just our job, like in numbers and engineers. So it's actually not that hard for us. It's harder for someone who's not abstract thinking. We're abstract thinkers, so we can actually like close our eyes and envision it, right? And we get glimpses of it. So it's like, okay, good. The problem is documenting it, because it takes forever to actually map
Yes,
it out.
100%. I've done quality assurance and I do the regular functional path of this must be true for it to pass the first layer.
Yep.
That's the easy part. When you're doing a product requirements document or a quality assurance plan for the happy path, and then you have to take into consideration all the other, if this person's just looking to break this thing, I got to look at this 16 different ways now.
Well, and then you also have to look at it 16 different layers, right? Is this person, like in my case, let's use banking. Is this a joint account? Do they share an account with someone? Does this person have dementia? Does it, what I'm saying? Like, because that's the thing, all those little insignificant factors are actually very significant when it comes to repair paths, right? So what I like doing, and what people that are obtuse and don't understand what UX architecture is,
Just
they
do the
like,
thing. Just do
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah. I was
thing.
gonna. Why can't you just do it? It's like, I need to do this to get you that thing, because otherwise, what I'm gonna do is just give you some like UX theater like document that's like, it looks pretty, but it's not actually actionable. But sadly enough, Joaquin, that is what some people want. Right? They just want to check it off. They want to say, like, for my end of year report, I did this, 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 and this. Yeah, but they don't show like how effective it was. They don't show how it works. It doesn't help anybody. It's just another like distraction. It's more noise than it is useful.
It's it's unfortunately the way that we measure productivity and value of a human resource in an organization. How many things did you do?
Yep.
But not to what degree did you do that thing?
Like, what's your impact? Right? Like, what actually, like, how did you impact the world around you? How many people are like not homeless because of the design you
That's
created?
that the problem is that you can't see those things.
Well,
It's
they
like,
don't want to measure them. So that's why you can't see them, you
well,
know?
well like from the world of marketing, I've learned that copywriting is a powerful way to deliver a message so that you can empathize
Yeah.
with a better outcome for an individual that you're trying to support or solve a problem for. A product is supposed to solve a problem for a person, and sometimes people get enamored by the vanity metrics of how many eyeballs did we get, how many impressions did we get, how many likes, how many positive comments. But just because somebody likes something doesn't mean that it speaks to the person that you're trying to help. So it's like, what are you optimizing for? The echo
Well,
chamber
there you go.
of sycophants? Ah, yeah, yeah. Pat yourself in the back. We did a great job. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you're bankrupt. Or are you isolating it just for the people that matter to the thing that you're trying to do that matters to them?
Yep. Exactly. And that's the big question because a lot of people don't even want to measure the real impact. That's it's not to their and you know maybe not a lot of people, but there's a distinct group of people who like got promoted because they're ambitious. There's nothing wrong with ambition unless it's blind and unless it's cutthroat. Right? Like if you're ambitious and you're ambitious and your ambition is to like save the world because you see how a lot of people aren't getting the banking services they need. I support that. I'll be like, hell yeah, brother, let's do this together. Let's give people access to like a human right, which is being able to like live in this world. And to live in this world, you need money. Right. And you need it digitally. You need to be able to pay stuff. You need to be able to do it effectively and efficiently without additional hurdles. People that have handicaps or any type of like things that would give them a harder time doing banking, we don't need to make their life harder, right? Like that's not my goal. My goal is not to like make it harder. In fact, I would like to for them to be like relieved when they use a product I create because it's like, oh, I can finally use it. I can finally do this without having to do that because there's so many banks that got sued because their ADA was just like out of whack, right? Because they don't care about it.
Their ADA meaning the accessibility compliance?
Yes, the access or they call it ally ADA accessibility. It's anything that's like either website or mobile or even like physical bank related.
Oh, we just have to comply with the regulations and make it go away. We just don't want to get sued. But they're missing out on a whole subset of a population that could benefit from it and give them money. So it's like,
Well, let's talk about that. Like the curb, like the curb lips, the ones that where you can use it. Well, you're the one that told me this. I think that you told me this that like they created that for like women with strollers or wheelchair people, but that everybody can benefit from like those lowered curbs, right? Because if you have mobility issues or if you're on a walker, like it doesn't help just the person you designed it for. Designing
no,
for
that wasn't
inclusive
me.
design.
I can't claim
Well,
that one. But that that,
well,
that is that is a good one. No, that makes sense.
right? Because you design for one, you design for all, but people don't see it that way. That's why like I follow a lot of ADA people. Like I'm constantly learning because I'm not the best at anything. I just want to be I want to be the best at servicing my clients that I'm servicing. Right. And a lot of that means learning. And what I see that's missing in the field is that curiosity. Right. A lot of people just want the title. They just want to be able to do AI design. Right. That's what they call themselves, AI design, which is fine. Like it's basically glorified visual designers. Right. Some of the really good ones actually are UX architects with just a different title. Right.
I think just to piggyback on that, slope versus stairs to make it accessible for everybody. I have seen videos on industrial designers that focus on the extreme needs, on the few that have the
Mm,
maximum impairments. That if you design for the people that have the least capable way of accessing that product to solve a particular use case, if you solve it for them, you solve it for everybody, and everybody will have an even more delightful experience. So
I agree. I agree. And it's hard to do and those are the people I try to follow because I'm still not there yet. Right? Like I wouldn't say my designs are like the best from an ADA standpoint, but you bet your butt that I'm very good friends with my ADA person. Right? Like they say they're so good. They teach me. I learn a lot. And I don't know if everybody has that relationship with people. In fact, I'm pretty sure that the people that I'm talking about, the arrogant people that are doing UX theater and they don't really care about UX architecture. They don't even know about it. Like there's people that really don't. They never knew that was a thing,
they
right?
don't. They have a big ego. They want a big title, and they don't want to hear anything different from what their worldview is.
And
And
that's,
that's
it's a
it's a
I
cancer
think
in
it's
the
sad.
organization.
Well, it is actually. I mean, yeah, it is because
Sorry,
that
sorry, if
person
that's a little
hires
bit
people.
harsh, you know, but
No,
yeah,
no, no, no. I mean,
they
that person
regulate.
hires people,
Yeah,
you
they
know?
regulate the function of a particular organ in an organization, and if they're saying, this is the way that it is, and put their blinds on, if something that is a true insight from a customer, and they tell you, hey, this is not the way we want it, can you please fix it back to the way that it was, and they don't because of hubris,
I
then you
know.
get the
Or they're
churn.
sycophants. The sycophants are like, don't listen to them. The users don't know what they're talking. I mean, that's actually sad when people are like, I have better taste than the user, so I'm just going to sue on my taste. This is the thing. I think marketing is great for that. Marketing is different than product design, right? Like if you're a marketer and you're a visual designer and you're an interaction designer and whatever, like to some extent, I could see people making the case that, like, all right, the user doesn't know what the user doesn't know, and we can do it in such a visual way to tell a story and blah blah blah. So I've seen that, which is different. What I'm talking about is apply that same mentality in product design and you're screwed, right? Because that's not the way it works when you're creating stuff that people use or even services that people use, right? People assume service design. I mean, let's talk about accidental like UX, right? Whether you mean to or not, you're always going to have UX, right? If you don't invest in it because you're some startup and you think like I just need an A/B test and all I want to do is validate, that's hubris, right? Because you're not doing it out of curiosity. You're not trying to solve a problem. I mean, people wonder why they don't have product market fit. It's because they don't listen, right? Half my job is listen. I would say 95% of my job is listening, right? Like all I do is listen, whether it's to the clients or to the stakeholders or to even the board members. Like as part of my job, I do have to be a business person, right? Because I have to justify why the good experience is to the company's benefit. Right. So I have to be able to translate that and say, yeah, well, if people are happy, they'll use the product more and then the margin will increase because we'll achieve efficiencies in X, Y, and Z ways. Right. So, like, that's a necessary evil for me. A lot of other UX designers love that part, right? They're like, oh, I love, and that's good. I mean, that's the thing. As long as we cover the three buckets of like caring for the user, caring for the stakeholders to make a money, and caring for the employees that actually build the products. Well, and then the fourth one for me is climate. A lot of people don't do climate, but I do like the full the full spectrum of like, all right, it may
Wow.
seem like, yeah, it may seem like my job is very simple where I'm like, I'm just pitching one idea. For me to pitch that one idea,
You have
so
layers
much.
and layers and layers of
And
research
I
and
don't even
complexity
show
and
them. I can't even
permutation,
show people.
because that's going to
Yeah,
shatter
no,
their
if I
brain,
show,
and they're going to be like nervous about executing the thing, even though you've already done all the groundwork.
well, you get me because that's why a lot of the work I do is like what I call like in the background, right? It's like for my back pocket, right? To
They see
justify
the
like people
iceberg,
don't,
they just see the tippy top, but then they don't see the 90% of the work that you've done below.
and I don't even tell them. The only person I tell is my boss, right? Like my boss knows, but like other people, I'm like, because they'll freak out. They'll say like you're overthinking, you're doing it wrong. It's like, dude, you don't tell me how to do my process, right?
I have a buddy. We went to high school together, and he spent 16, 17 years now in the service industry. He's worked as a dishwasher, as a food sampler, handouter, whatever you want to call
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah. I
profession.
love those people.
Waiter, bartender, assistant manager, manager of a portfolio of restaurants,
Oh
opening up
wow.
restaurants from concepts, doing competitive analysis on different restaurants to come up with his own concept. And now he switched to be a chef.
Oh
Um,
wow.
so he's done front of house, arrangement, layout, managing staff, hiring, training, firing. He's done back of house, the production of food, the financial model per
Mm-hmm.
plate, per ingredient, per cycle of purchasing and accepting and verifying the freshness and quality of food,
Yeah.
the KPIs, the financial reports, the financial targets, settling all the
Jesus.
outstanding
Sure
payments.
to be the customer, dude. Like that's the only.
And when I go with him to go grab a bite or grab a beer, I love examining the world through his brain. I'm
Yeah.
like, yo, if we were to evaluate a restaurant to buy or to see the quality of management capability, what is the first place you'd go and check? Like a heuristic, right? A rule of thumb. And he says check the bathroom. Before you go and you eat at a place, check the bathroom. That's an unintentional experience, but it tells you the level of
Attention to
closeness that the
detail.
management has to running the establishment, or the level of ownership that the people that are actually owning the establishment are taking to ensure a positive customer experience.
Dude, that is such a good point. There's someone at work that talked about like his life experience and used the acronym ATD, attention to detail, and how like he was a football player at Stanford and how like, after his coach was giving him advice, like he started paying attention to the people that had that attention to detail and realized there was one person in his locker room that literally this whole life was about optimizing his football performance. And then he started paying attention to how this guy did it. I mean, direct parallels to what you're talking about. Attention to detail. Like if even the bathroom is pristine, and even the bathroom encapsulates the experience. I mean, that is such a good metaphor for UX. If even the crappiest parts of the experience are thought out.
Customer service. If customer service takes care of customers in a friendly, efficient manner, then you have a good product.
Yeah.
You have to have, because you're paying attention and you're reducing the friction points and the stumbling blocks of the negative experiences. If you have the customer service line ringing off of the phone and you have to unplug the phone cord,
Yes.
back in the 90s or whatever when we had phone cords,
I know, right?
if you had to rip it off the grid, it's because you're not listening to people.
Yep. Yep. And that's a big problem nowadays, right? People forget that, UX is still UX, right? It's not going to change. The principles, the double diamond. Now we're introducing the triple diamond, which includes system design thinking, right?
Oh,
That hasn't changed. That like it really hasn't changed. All the principles that you learned back in the day, if you learned them, because boot camps don't teach that. Boot camps teach you how to be hands. They commoditized our
use
industry.
tools. How to be a technician. Use tools.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, oh God, when there's conferences about the tools versus conferences about the craft, there's issues, right? Now, don't get me wrong, those conferences are fun. I want to go to them, but now it seems they get more attention than any craft type
Right.
of conference, and that's the part I disagree with. It's like we should really be talking about our field, you know?
No, I completely agree, and that's why I do events that are about the craft
Mhm.
and the ideas and the principles, because there's an inundation of tool driven, technology driven echo chambers that just reaffirm everybody's perspective on the thing that they're doing, and they're not taking into consideration the broader context of how quickly they're going to fail or burn cash or misspend resources. So,
Yep.
but
I
you
mean, I
can't
love
fix the
that you
world,
do that.
right? You can't fix the world. The people that want to listen will listen, and they'll appreciate it.
Well, I agree, and I think that's why, like, can I just like give Jessica Talisman like a shout out? Like, she really got me into knowledge engineering, which I didn't even like. I realized that's what they were when I worked with these people. I never realized like because they had different titles. They had like data scientist or data this or data QA. Like, they didn't have the title that like is traditionally known now, because now it's I think it's matured, like it's maturing, therefore like it's more standardized, and when you first start something it's just kind of like all over the place. So she gave me the language I needed to describe what I like, right? Like literally gave me the language. And I love that because those are the people that like I get fueled by. But back to your point about like there's people that want to further the craft, and like to me people like that are quintessential, because if we don't have the data right we can't do AI. People forget that. People are very like myopic, especially people that are not close to the craft, right? Like non-technicians will assume AI will just replace people. And that's why we're seeing God, we're seeing this mess in the world, like where they literally think, let's lay off all these people and AI can do it. Right. Now the people that actually do AI are like face palm. Right? Because they're like, oh no, bro. If you don't have the data pipeline, if you don't have the hygiene, if you don't have all that, if you don't have that set up, you're not gonna have good AI, bro. You're not, it's just not gonna work. And like in theory, you could replace certain people with AI, but AI can only do certain stuff. It's not like human ingenuity. Like the way I see it, I never use AI for like end state deliverables. Like AI will never do my complete UX deliverable because AI hallucinates still a lot, or they don't get it perfect. And it's like, all right, instead of wasting tokens on like, can you change these two words or whatever? I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna copy and paste and edit them myself. Like it took me like 80%. Like as long as AI can take me to this 50%, 60%, or like 90% of the way there, I can make custom edits, right? Give me a
Yep.
base, right? And then I can edit from there. But I don't know, like people that are not in AI think AI is magical and can do
I,
anything.
I love that you're saying that you recognize the limitations of the technology. What worries me is the people that say that it takes you 50% and they say that's good enough.
Oh, I know. Oh, I know. They
And then
they
you
have
have to
no
remedy
quality. They have no
and then
taste.
and then you have to remedy the what's a polite word to use without using profanities.
Oh, and
Uh,
shitification. Like that's the word.
yeah, they give you a suboptimal, subpar product that has no thought, and it's kind of just a garbled up noise, a blended up soup of crap, and
Yeah.
you have to then take that and use that as an input for your own processes, and then you have to go and do the work that they were supposed to do and reclaim a quality product from your side. Otherwise, it affects everybody, right?
Well, and a lot of times we have to work undercover, right? Because we need to make this concept work. But the people that are operators that don't know the technology limits, they're like, well, you only have 10 hours to do this, right? But it's like a 50-hour job. And they want to dictate. Like it's so weird. It's always the same authoritarian people. There's people that always want to be in control and they want to micromanage the way you do stuff. It's those people that really don't know what they're doing, right? Because if they were really good in AI, they would know it's a collaborative sport and they can't like dictate every single move,
The
right? They
le-
have to kind of go with the flow.
the legalities of it, the financial aspects of it, the technical aspects of it, the social aspects of it, they converge in some areas, but you can't possibly look at all the lenses and have a holistic perspective. It's too much. And then governance, how are the people that are supposed to manage and control and provide oversight, like they don't share all those unique perspectives and they don't represent all the kinds of users that they're going to get either. So
Hello. Hello. No, but you know what? You hit the nail on the head there, right? So, like, let's talk about that. That's why it's so important to rely on I call them friends, people call them colleagues, right? Because some of the best collaborators I work with, I end up becoming friends with them because, like, I appreciate, first of all, they build trust with me, right? I trust their opinion. I trust that they're not lying to me. I trust that they want to do the right thing, right? That's just three different types of trust right there. Not everybody meets them, but those that do, I'm like, yes, like automatically, I trust you. We're good, right? There's people that want to do good, but just don't know, right? There's like different levels. Like, let's say it's a spectrum, right? Trust is a spectrum, security is a spectrum, smartness is a spectrum, right? I have to take people where they're at and like not judge them, just work with them, right? So if I'm working with a partner that is a despot, right? They want to just get promoted. Maybe they're arrogant. Maybe they're malignant narcissists, right? Like maybe, like, and I've worked with those people. I may still work with those people now. I don't know, but I just know that like their outputs are mediocre products, right? Because those people are like singular in their thoughts. They want to do something just to put it out, just to say and meet some goals so they can get their like bonus at the end of the year, right? And that's fine. They could do that, but not on my projects, right? Like it's like I will work extra behind the scenes to put out something good because like you can't win with those people, right? If you actually like work more to get a good product out, they'll use that against you. And if you do what they say, you're going to fail
you're
because
in
they
it.
don't know what they're doing.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't. You're insubordinate. You're not conforming to the company culture. You're not a good team player.
So I just do it on my own. And I'm like, it's not going to hurt anybody. My back, like, it's like doing the math problems, right? My scratch at people, like, it doesn't matter what I did to get to the right math problem. All you want is the
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 answer,
math problem. Yeah,
yeah,
give me the answer. Like, I'm going to give you the answer. I'm not going to give you the sheet I used to work it out.
the
I'm not
proof,
going to do that.
the
Why? Because you're going to
theorem,
use that against me.
yeah. Um, let's pull this back because I feel like we are on the right frequency, harmony. We're singing to each other. I love it. I feel like this is a drug to find the
or
same kind
friendship
of
or
yeah.
camaraderie. Like we can finally like talk in a really nice way about problems that have been affecting our industry, you
But
know?
I do want to pull it back because I do want to make this accessible because I worked support. I've worked in restaurants. I
Hmm.
worked in quality assurance. I worked as a business analyst. I worked as a technical project manager. So I get the different layers. I love the layers, and that's what makes it hard to kind of explain things in a
Hmm.
one-dimensional way. But user experience is not just a word for a profession that does a series of tasks.
Yep.
How would you describe it more holistically, and can you contextualize like everything that we've been talking to converge into that definition?
Yeah, let's talk about it. Like I'm the worst for it, but I'm gonna try. Just just to be honest, right? I just do it, right? Like that's my mentality. My mentality is like do it, not define it. But I would say UX is like literally UX and service design are very like they're the same coin, just different sides, right? The UX is usually for like digital products, right? You don't think about like the hardware, but I think we have to start thinking about UX as also industrial design and service design is industrial design. So I would say the three are very similar, right? And that's where we get human factors, right? Like human factors was born out of like med tech and like cars, right? Telematics, right? Like it's a physical product that you have to consider ergonomics and you have to consider like the physical human body and how it fits. If we apply human factors to UX and service design, regardless of whether there's like a physical product involved, we really escalate our designs, right? So I would say experience design is really like thinking through end to end, right? How all the people that are affected by the product or whatever are impacted. So that's how my framework of like the four pillars came to be, right? Because clearly the customer client are impacted. That is why you're doing it. Like primarily UX design is thought about that, like empathy for the user. But we didn't invent empathy. Empathy has always been around, right? So that's kind of we have to remember that we don't own empathy as UX designers. We don't own it. We just preach it. We just remind people, right? Like we're the guardians of it, but we're not like we shouldn't
Customer
be
advocates.
advocates of it, right? We're not supposed to be gatekeeping it. Like product owners can have. By the way, some of the best product owners I've worked with, hella empathy, hell, like oh my god, like, and they usually came from like customer service, right? So let's talk about like okay, so let's think about it like in different angles, right? UX experience and service design are end to end. Service design is more about abstract thinking in terms of like sometimes you don't have a digital product. Sometimes it's a customer service person over the phone.
Right.
Sometimes the deliverable is giving them a script, what to say in certain situations, right? So I would say UX design and maybe service design looks at all the people that are impacted, people and climates, right? Because now, like with AI, I realized, oh, we need to include climate in here. Right. Like climate is something that is important because yeah, like maybe AI checks off so many of the good stuff, but to if in order to do something it takes a lot of tokens, which takes a lot of compute, which takes a lot of water, and the data center is in a remote area where water and energy are scarce in rural America, I'm going to maybe change my plan, right? So, like, service design, UX design is really thinking through and advocating for all the users and like environmental. I would say thinking about like also like outcomes, right? Like, let's just put it that way. It's about outcomes, right? What do we want to happen? From a user perspective, from a business stakeholder perspective, how can we make money off of it? Because I also have to like justify my existence by making my company money. And there's ways to do it ethically without like being extractive. So like to manage that balance is really tough.
I was just gonna say, I yes, thank you for saying that you have to take into consideration the impact on the environment because you're not in an isolated capsule that just uses things and oh looky here, like we print out all our things in paper. How many trees are you chopping down a year? You know, we do all our transactions on LLMs. It's our own proprietary model. Okay, how much water are you consuming per thing? You know, hey, we print out a pretty cartoon character that's hyper personalized to the name and ethnicity of the client. Okay, you're still using computational resources. Is there a lower energy? Is there a lower computationally expensive way of fulfilling the same level of delightful experience. And there's so many different tools for that, right? Like
Hmm.
people want to just slap LLMs, these greedy things on top of everything, but is that fit for use in every scenario?
I mean, you said it, brother, right? Like, should we even use it? A lot of places want to use it because they can tell their stockholders, we used AI. I mean, it's literally a checkbox, dude. But like again, AI isn't the end all be all technology. It's amazing. Like if you know the limitations and you know what it can actually do, it is pretty amazing. But it's not as amazing as the people who benefit from making money off of it are saying it is. Cuz that's what it is. It's a grift, dude. Like it's a bubble. They're making it be like, oh, we can replace humans and doctors. It's like, maybe eventually, but do we want that? First of all, do we want that? Do you want to destroy society just so that you could say, look at it, what AI can do? And at what cost? Like, well, yeah, so we destroy humanity and we take away jobs and then also we destroy the environment. Like, make it make sense for me, bro. Right? Like, and they can't because it's all greed. And this is what I'm talking about, like extractive, maladaptive, like narcissists who are just like malignant, right? They just care about themselves or their own purpose.
Don't hire humans, hire our AI agents.
And even though they technically cost more, that's what people forget. Right now, we're subsidizing AI, but if we actually paid for the real cost, well, you're the one
Yes,
who told me about gluttony, right?
yes.
Like gluttonous use. Like if we could be cautious about like how we actually are purposeful about how we use certain technologies, whether it's AI or not. Just if it makes sense, use it. If it doesn't make sense, don't use it. Test it, ask people, don't make assumptions, and then build accordingly. Because I think, and this is actually a concept a coworker brought up, and I think, oh, this is freaking brilliant. He brought up how like we should own the JSON files and the operations because we're able to kind of balance between like the compute that we need to create good experiences and willing to understand, all right, if we like the example he gave was like um let's say we use a lot of compute for this thing that only brings nominal value. From a UX perspective, we can say not worth it. We can sacrifice that, right? But it's a different angle than a product owner who may just slash compute or be like, I don't care, and then gets mad at the end of the year he gets a bill. And it's like, what? Right? So like my coworker actually brought up the idea of owning the ops to some extent, like a co-sharing the ops. And I feel that's a great idea because a lot of times like I'm seeing how devs are owning that and it really degrades the experience, right? Because they don't know where to cut. They just are told cut compute and they cut like willy-nilly. Whereas UX designers, we could actually be like, well, this area might be good to cut. It's not as important, blah, blah, blah.
To your point, before you made a comment about how different functional roles in this multifunctional team are gauged for their value in the organization. Developers, engineers are rewarded for productivity, measured by how much code can they ship at any given moment. Now, whether they're doing something that is contributing to a negative experience or over consuming resources in the back end, they're just following orders. Don't blame me, you know? But
The good devs push back.
right, right. Same thing with the designer, same thing with customer service. The good anything pushes back when you
Yep.
find friction.
Yep. And the cool, okay, so I will tell you there's like spectrums. And so and my whole life is based on spectrums, right? You have people that push back and are good at pushing back and they're able to do it. But then the really good ones make you feel good about it because they give you the justifications. They give you like they understand the psychology of like, all right, I don't want to make you feel like an idiot because your idea was really dumb. But at the same time, you maybe like they look at agendas too, right? Like if the person means well, right, you're going to help them up. You're more likely to be like, all right, let me prop you up because you mean well. And your idea may not be efficient because of X, Y, and Z, but let's actually try to meet you in the middle and try to get to what you're actually trying to get to, even though you're giving me bad directions there. Like you're trying to get to Tennessee, but you're giving me like a route through Florida, right? Let me just get you to Tennessee, right? Because I know how to do it. I've done it before. And this is maybe your first time or you're like learning. So, like, those that are able to convince people and not make them feel dumb, those guys will win the world, right? So that's kind of what I'm trying to learn and I struggle with because I make people feel dumb all the
Agreed.
time, which is never my goal. My goal is never to feel like make people feel
Well,
dumb.
it's not just that, it's also that it's a very, very political. And I was just talking about this to somebody that sent a message. They sent a message that was worded in a way that you're wrong and I'm right.
Mm, mm,
And
mm.
that was in a public engagement. And I connected with them individually, and I said, bro, I appreciate the intent, and the information you delivered was incredibly valuable and insightful. Next time that you engage with somebody, do not criticize them publicly because that generates resentment. And if
Yeah.
you're in a closed team environment and you're telling people this is wrong, we're hurting the customers, this is a suboptimal experience for us and for the customers, you are looked at as a pariah, as a dissenter, as a negative Nancy, as somebody that doesn't want to help shift and lift the thing. Framing it in a constructive way, that's a really big art skill set. In the beginning, I didn't know how to say that. All I
Yeah.
could say was, "We're bleeding.
Yeah.
What do we
That's me
do?"
too. That's still me, dude. I'm like learning from you as we speak. I'm like, oh, I should frame it better. Sometimes, like, my new solution is to just shut up and let other people talk. Cause that's also worked for me where I want to say something and then somebody else on my team says it. And I'm like, oh, they said it really good. Oh, I don't even have to do anything. I just have to make sure it gets done, whether it's by me. Dude, it's funny that you say that because, like, I'm neurodivergent, so it's it's really easy for me to do certain things. It's not super easy to reframe stuff. That's the hardest part of my job because I'm like, oh, it takes so much energy and effort. If I could just be blunt, and that's why I can work with certain people because they don't take offense to me. They're like, oh, Yadi doesn't mean any offense. Like she's just trying to be efficient
Right.
with words,
We're
you
trying to
know?
solve this common objective. Let's work together to do it. Oh, you have a different idea, or you say we can tackle it through a different route because that one has traffic because you're using Waze and we're not using a GPS system that has traffic awareness.
Hmm.
Awesome. Let's listen to Yadi.
Yeah, and that's the thing that like those people don't get offended by me because we're creating together. It's usually the tacticians because that's the thing when you're creative and that, I call it creative, but it's actually a scientist, right? Like you're actually being a scientist, but you're creating with other scientists, right? Or engineers, whatever you want to call it. Um, you like to get to the point, right? Like you don't want to like waffle. And a lot of the developers I work with are actually like they're awesome, dude. Like, I mean, this is the thing. Like, I've worked with all types of developers, and the developers that want to do good work that like think like me that it's like, hey, we could actually check box everything. Like, it could be good for the business, it could be good for the user, it could be like technically, operationally, like sound, right? Like, by the way, our QA people amazing because they even look at the UI. They even look at like a period, and I'm like, oh, you're detail oriented. But my point is, when you have people that like want to do good work, it's a lot easier and they don't get offended because they really look through and cut through the noise and get to the nuggets that you're trying to get to. But I struggle with leadership, right? Because there's a lot of like hubris. Not all. Like there's some oh my god, like the best
It's
leaders are the ones that are like understand me where I'm at, accept me for who I am, and then show me or tell me how to better frame it for other people. They're like, okay, good. I understand what you're saying. This is how I would put it. And I'm like, oh my God, oh, that's awesome. You know, like I'm like super impressed. And they're able to make me feel better about my faux pas. But there's other people that, you know, they're like little the emperors have no clothes, right? They want to dictate, they want to tell you how to do your work. And that's where I have to work in hidden and it like I don't know, just behind the scenes, like to make their from to make them look successful, I have to work behind the scenes for how to actually make their idea work without tactically taking all their advice because what they're saying literally would not work.
so you want the thing, but you're telling me how to do the thing when you've never done the thing, and then you
Ding
expect
ding
an
ding.
outcome that you've never achieved. Mm.
Well, I mean, and let's be honest, a lot of people get promoted to certain positions where they have no, I mean, not to be a jerk, they have no business being there, right? Where, you know, where you get like some person, I don't know, I'm trying to think, marketing that goes into ops. I could kind of see that. But then if you get someone that goes from like ops into marketing, like that's different because I've seen ops people just want to check lists versus like really good marketers want to connect with the customer through emotions, through storytelling, right? Like real marketers are magical, bro. I love working with like people that understand the human condition and can frame like problems into solutions for them, right? I've worked with ops people that are amazing like UX people too. So like it goes both ways. It's really on the person, I would say.
So, seeing as how we're at the hour, what well, first of all, I just want to say, I just everything that you do, I view you as an orchestrator, following with a symphony. You're not playing the instruments, but you are listening to the instruments being played and you're having a conversation with them to make the sound kind of convergent in a positive way. You do the composition, you're managing the composition, and you're orchestrating the movement of the instruments, but you're really having a conversation with everybody to make sure that you reach the same beautiful song.
Well, modification, right? I am, but I'm not, right? Like the orchestrator in my case, like different depends on the job. So I would say my physical job, it's definitely the product person, but I am one of those multi-instrumentalists, right? Like I'm like the orchestra director's like little like okay, the like the flautist is gone. Yadi, play the flute, right? But like keep in mind there's certain types of instruments, right? Like
Right,
I
right,
would
right.
say the UX experience related engineering human factor stuff. Like I can be a switch hitter or it's like I could play the like you know what I'll use this example, a percussionist. I can play all the percussionist stuff. I could play the little like bongos and the congas and the cymbals and the triangle, but you put me in the tuba and I'll fail, right? Because
Mm.
that's not the instrument, but I'm great with percussion. That's kind of how I see UX and AI UX, right? Where it's like I've had to be the writer, I've had to be the model trainer, I've had to be the tuner, I've had to be like, the NLU architect, and I'll gladly do it depending on who's on the team, right? Because everybody depends on who they put on your team. If you have like a really good visual designer, awesome, I don't have to do visual design, right? If they give me a writer, awesome, I don't have to do writing. But sometimes the projects are so small, it's just me, right? And there's no real need for UI. It's just like literally a chatbot conversation. So I'm like, okay, I can do it. I can do the writing, I can do the model training, I can do the tuning, and all I have to do is just work with the business partner, right? But like there's other times where the projects are huge, right? And like we have to orchestrate it among the UX people. So yeah, I would say you're right. I'm kind of an orchestrator from the UX perspective, but only a certain area of the orchestra, right? Like I'm not in charge of the whole orchestra.
Yeah, well, you're waving the hands, and then you're running to in front of the instrument and playing the instrument, and then you're coming back and you're waving the hands, and then you're
Basically, yeah, but
getting
it's
the
not
party
just me. I
on.
think everybody. Yeah, I think everybody in UX that are really good at their jobs do that, right? Because they don't want to see it fail.
So, what outcome do you want out of this podcast? Like, what do you want people to come away with from this
Oh,
title?
to be curious, to not be arrogant, to listen to people, to not assume you have all the answers, to actually assume that nothing is impossible, right? Because if you're part of a team, you can actually accomplish it. It's just that so many people are like, I'm telling you, cutthroat ambitious, like they want to have like that title without earning it. And honestly, what I want them to come away with is do not be ageist. Do not be discriminatory against people who've been doing UX architecture or UX design for 20 or 30 years because those people actually have skill sets that modern day does not teach and that we need in AI. Right? Like that is what makes me different. That like I've actually lived in this world for so long and I've done AI before the AI craze, right? Because why? Because it's UX. Like if you follow standard UX principles, like time tested principles, you'll be fine. Like it's not just visual design. I don't want people to leave this conversation thinking like, oh, visual design like is who we should hire. That's UX design. It's like, no, that's what the world thinks. Right. And just because all these like AI startups are hiring them, I want you to challenge yourself to see if they actually have a good product. Right? Because Lovable like is branding and doing all this stuff, but like do they actually produce? Like do they actually like give you like production ready stuff? I mean, I've heard so many bad things about like their inability to actually like code working stuff because it's like UX theater. It's like great for prototyping, but not maybe for launching, right? And I want people to be realistic about like how cool and fun these AI tools can be, but they're kind of like a game, right? To some extent, literally all I use them for is for the white page problem, which is you have a white page and I need to
Right.
get
Where
started.
do I get started to know what I shouldn't be doing or what I should be doing just to get out of the rut, right?
Yep. Yep. And I might use it for writing, like marketing content is great for ideas, for like sparring partners in terms of like vetting certain things and like when I do my flows, kind of understanding like, does this make sense? What other use case do I have to think of? So AI is actually pretty brilliant at like getting work done fast and getting us started fast, which is the hardest part. Procrastination is a human trait, right? But I would say like if you're relying on AI for production level stuff, you're naive. You're just naive.
One of the biggest pain points for me as a project manager, managing engineers that are very expensive, $250 an hour, plus when you initiate a concept, nobody knows what the hell you want to do. Everybody says, this is the product requirement document. We're going to follow this to the T. And after the first prototype, after the first iteration of it, even if it's just the facade of the UI, everybody's going to have an opinion and everything's going to be shifted over. So that I see a great amount of value in not wasting time, resources doing those things, but running those experiments first to burn out, like from paper to something you can all critique. Like, do we want it to work this way? Do we have a color scheme? Do we have enough accessibility taken into consideration for this? Now that we're
Well,
playing with
sometimes
it,
they don't even have that. Like they don't even write that into the docs. And I'll be honest, I haven't had a PRD, a BRD in like 4 years. Well, I I don't know how to feel about that because my that tells you everything about my personal job. That like if they're not writing these docs, that means it's on us, which I actually don't mind. I'm an opportunist. I'm like, you know what? If you don't give me a PRD, that means I have full reign. Right? Like, let's just do it, buddy. But like when I worked at another bank, what I loved is that we started with us being given PRDs. It was just throw over the fence, very much waterfall. Like, here you go, this is the power, which was, I guess, great, whatever. It gave us a start. But what we ended up with after working with, for years with these same people, they actually started asking us to co-write it with them, right? Like, so they would actually involve us before, like, because they would do this like big orchestration meetings where we had like literally like hundreds of partners on the call, and they would break down the PRD and go bullet by bullet. And then eventually, what happened was like they would realize we could actually insert wireframes as part of the requirements, right? To kind of show them because that's what Dev wanted. They're like, okay, this is great, but I'm not going to read like 100 pages. Like, can you give me like like basically conditions, like how does it look like? So we would give them the amendments to their documents in real time because I could actually challenge them too. I could actually say like, well, does it have to be that way? Like, what's the goal? And then the really good partners are like, you're right, we don't have to do it that way. I just this is so they would actually give me less product requirements and more product outcomes. Be like, this is what I want the outcome to be, and then this is the data I have. And then from there, we could actually whiteboard. And oh, man, those were the best people to work with.
that's
Like those
fun.
were oh
That's
my God, it was so
co-creation.
much fun.
That's a jazz sesh, you know?
Oh my God, we were all jazzing. I was playing the saxophone, they were playing the drums. Like, dude, it's so beautiful music to my ears, right? But those partners had been in the field now 40 years. Like, they've been in banking forever. These people are brains on sticks. And it's always the really smart people that are the most humblest because they don't have to prove anything. They're like, I exist as I exist and I bring value and I don't have to prove that to anybody. I just bring it. And those are the people that I'm like, by the way, those are the people I learned from. Those are the people that I'm learning still from, like the art of humility, right? When I think of like someone that I don't like, I'm like, why don't I like them? Oh, because they're the opposite of this person. This person was like, they knew more than them. They like are more like they had a lower title than them, but they had more influence, which is funny because in an org, you kind of look at the dynamics and you're like, why does this person have influence and this person doesn't? And you see some of them suck up to people and you see other people are just respected, right? So I'm like, oh, I want to be that person. I want to be that knowledge base that people respect me, right? So yeah, but it's hard to get there, right? Because a lot of people don't want to give you the tools to like they don't want to give you the tools or the support that you need, right? It may actually try to close in on you, right? And that's the hardest part. Like, how do you create a good experience when maybe the people you work with are not helpful, right? Like,
Well, I think we've addressed this in a couple different ways of describing the situation. But if you really truly want to reach the optimal outcome, even though it may not be the best situation for you at any given moment, expending an additional amount of time, energy, detail, effort to consume the work, it'll breed you as a more valuable craftsperson. You're going to get more opportunities to grow and develop and refine. And I could design UIs. I can make BRDs. I can take those functional specs. I can turn them into design specs. They don't have to be beautiful, clean, perfect,
mhm.
but they just need to be good enough to be critiqued so that we could shake it out and have the jazz sesh, you know?
Yep, yep. And sometimes, like, you can yes and each other, right? By looking at your designs, I'm like, oh, another idea sparks, right? A lot of people don't work like that. A lot of people are very territorial. Dude, that's the theme lately. Like, this wasn't a big issue. Like, Jesus, in 2012, 2011, this wasn't an issue. Like, for whatever reason, I didn't experience the territorialness that I'm experiencing now from everybody, not just like product people or engineer. Well, not really engineers. Engineers, I've been lucky, but like product people or like other business people, right? Um, Especially other designers, they're like, "You're entrenching on my territory." I was like, "Well, technically, no. Like, just because you want that territory doesn't make it yours. That just makes you want it." Right? And that's where my common sense comes in and says, well, literally I know more than them in this field because I live it and I do it. So, I'll let them talk. I'll let them feel like they own it because for whatever reason they're that way. But like the reality is, like, I am needed to make this work.
Right. Your charge, your task, you're responsible for leading the charge or being a complement to a positive outcome.
Well,
It's
there you
just sad.
go. That's the point. Yeah. And I don't want to fail that, and it's
It's,
hard.
it's just sad because I feel like a lot of these misalignments, disharmonies, conflicts of interest are based on fear and ignorance and
Yeah.
not wanting to be vulnerable, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You
Maybe
could
they're
be
afraid of losing their job,
Hey,
you
you could be
know?
a sycophant, you can be brown nosing, whatever, you could get whatever kind of political power, but as long as you're not encroaching upon productivity and you're
Mhm.
pushing against the people that actually want to solve the problems the right way the first time for the optimal experience that benefits the business, the team, and the client, who cares? More power to you. If you could get me along in the boat, if you could get me on the crew, get me on the paycheck, whatever. Just don't be a deterrent for progress.
What do they say it like? Uh, I forgot. It's the military saying like, lead, follow, or get out of the way. It's to get out of the way. Like, dude, just don't be in my way. Like, I'm cool. Like, you know what? When you said that, I'm like, that's me. That's me in a nutshell. Like, I will not hate on someone who's trying. I mean, I would want to, but I just don't have time to hate on someone who wants to advocate for themselves and just
Get the
like get it.
bag. Get
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah. I'm
bag.
like, get the bag, but don't get in my way of getting
Right.
my bag and
Right. Right.
getting
Right.
my accomplishments because I always want both things. I want to be able to be compensated for the work I do, right? Even if they don't recognize it, I want to be paid for what I do.
Of
But
course.
also, I want to do good. If I'm going to get paid for it, might as well like help people. Like, to me, it's not a big deal. But for other people, it's UX theater. They just want that bag and fine, whatever. Just don't get in my way. Like, don't get it. Like, you put it perfectly, brother. Like, just don't become a problem, right? Don't get in the way of progress.
Ay, ay, ay. I feel like I could talk to you forever. I really do.
We could. We could actually, but people probably be like bored by the time they're like, why are they talking about dogs now and like
No, no. I,
random
I think
stuff?
I think people will, again, like I've done a lot of these things, events, content, collaborations, not with the intent of mass adoption,
Yeah.
but niche fulfillment, build a sense of belonging. because that's true community when you
Yeah.
can signal in and say, damn, I see you and you see me, and we're fighting the same battles, and we want to have the same impact. That's the stuff, you know.
Well, that's why I'm here, dude. Like, you're trying to do AI for good. And by the way, like, some people get offended that I have friends all over the place. But when you like reach out to people just because you're like, how can I help you? And people like you in return, I'm not gonna like hate on that. I'm like, hell yeah, dude. Like, it's not like I went out there and try to make friends with all these people because I could get something out of it. Like, I just saw they were doing something good and I want to be part of it. Right. And people don't realize that if you do something just to help other people, guess what? It's called friendship, dude. People will want to be your friends.
I remember when I started, and this goes back to being a server, I was told to show up early before my schedule. I know this is like, ooh, capitalism, you're serving capitalism, whatever. You know, I just thought it was like a way for me to be a better whatever I am, in whatever capacity, in whatever profession. Show up before your schedule and serve your peers. So I would make coffee for the kitchen staff and for everybody that
Oh,
would
I
just
love that.
come in first thing in the morning, and then with my partner in crime, the same guy that I described, the chef,
Mhm.
we would make a game out of it. So we had to set up for 60 something table
Jesus.
establishment.
You gamified your work.
Yeah, so we would
That's
make the
awesome.
coffee and it would be like a time box, like, yeah, get the coffee in.
Yeah.
And then we'd have a cart, and then he would do we would take turns, but one person would dual wield the spray bottles
Oh,
for
I love
cleaning the
that.
tables. So he would be like slow motion shooting all the tables, and then somebody would be weaving in the back, and then we would have a third person come in and put the condiments on the table.
Oh my god, so it's like a little assembly line of
Yep,
getting the tables ready. I love
yep.
that.
Economy of motion, but it was also fun,
Ah,
and we would put
economy of
music.
motion. That's what we're missing in our field. Like,
Yeah,
people are like so jarring to work with sometimes. It's like, Jesus, can we just like be like y'all? Right? Make fun, like have fun at it. Like, by the way, those are the people I love at work, the ones that just make it so much fun because we're solving problems together. It's actually a really fun job, but we make it hard, you know?
the one time I showed up late, I don't know what the heck was going on. My transportation was compromised, and one of the chefs told me, "Get to making the coffee, coffee boy." Dude, the other chefs and everybody else in the establishment jumped them. Like they just said, like that's not the way to do the thing, you know.
What an
But yeah,
but
I
I
mean,
love it. They
but but
jumped in for you.
but you as an empath, as somebody that wants to do a good job and wants to make the environment productive, are going to do a little bit of extra work to lubricate all the negative experiences, and we're all pulling together as a crew, and then it's fun, you know. why
Well, you said
why
it, brother. The extra work is the lubrication that no one sees and no one wants, right? They don't want to hear about that. But it's like, you know what? If you want me to make you look good, brother, you're going to have to put up with my extra work because that's what it takes. Right. But I'm not going to tell you about it. I'm not going to brag. I'm not going to say, like, this is why you should give me a promotion because it's actually going to hurt me because they're going to say, why can't you do your work how other people do it?
you're
It's like, first of
inefficient,
all,
everybody else is working 9 to 5. Why aren't you fit
yeah, yeah,
9 to 5?
but it's fine. It's fine. That's why I shut up and don't tell people. I'm like, you know what? You don't have to know my methods. You just have to know my outputs, right? And like, I'm not going to burn myself out either. So I find ways to do things better and cheaper and faster. So like in the end, I don't work more than 40 hours. I still get it done in 40 hours. It's just that like I work with my own brain. And if my own brain is in the flow, like at 9 in the afternoon, right? It's the PM, my son's asleep, then I may actually get more work done in 20 minutes than I do like 5 hours during the day because of the noise and distraction, right? So I know me and I work with my own flow, but I don't tell people. I'm not going to tell them like this is what I do because then they're going to be like, nah, 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 nah. It's like 9 to 5. It's like, you know what, dude? Like if you're trying to micromanage my process, you have a problem. Like focus on your own shit. Focus on your own house before you look at somebody else's.
Getting biblical now.
I know, right? Well, sometimes you got to, brother. Sometimes you got to set them straight. But no, but thank you so much for this conversation. I really appreciate like your wisdom, because I always learn from you.
I learn from you, and I always have a good time. And I think everybody should take improv. I also had this problem where in sometimes in personal relationships I would say but. I
Mhm,
would butt everybody. I would put my butt over everyone, and people would get upset. Why does there need to be a conflict of I'm right or you're wrong, or you're right and I'm wrong? Yes, and
mhm.
that's a magic word for lubricating the social dynamic.
And even if they're wrong, you can still yes and them, right? Like if someone's like, like,
Yeah.
yes, and you're right about that, but what about this? Right? Like the whole point is to like yes and their intention, not what they're literally saying. People are like bastardize it. People have like set off campaigns against me because of yes and. Like yes and is horrible. It's destroying our UX. I'm like, no, it's not. Like what type of UX? I mean, what type of first of all, yeah, maybe what type of UX are you doing? But also what type of yes and are you doing? Because I never said you have to say yes to everything. That's not yes and. Yes and's actually like supporting people in a way that you let them know that you're there for them, but part of that is also calling them out. If you're really there for people and someone's doing something self-destructive, you bet your ass I'm going to call them out and be like, dude, quit your crap. This is hurting you. Right? That's what a friend's that is yes anding, and it doesn't have to have the words. I mean, I guess technically you could always make everything like yes and I love you, but you got to quit your crap. Right? There's always a way to kind of support people. I think that's what it really comes down to. Like, can we support people and genuinely have their best interest in mind? Because so many people don't, you know?
All right, my production manager's coming in. She says that
Is that your little
we
flow?
gotta cut it out. She's like, I'm trying to get
Oh my
that.
God. I have a little void too. I call them a void because they're black. But I
Yeah,
love it, man. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate you in the conversation.
I appreciate you, Yeti, and we're gonna do another one and another. Oh my god, we had we had. I was so immersed, so immersed. I was in the water, in the pool, without breathing, or maybe with an oxygen tank. So fixated that I didn't see that we had some awesome guests. We had Ann Cantera, we had Ludmila Todorova, and
Oh,
Kamau
wow.
Akabuizi.
Wow, dude.
So, uh, thank you guys for showing up, and we hope it was a good one. I was just so fixated on this conversation.
Thank you, Joaquin. This is awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.